All right, Heather, A through Z.
Let's go L.
What did everybody love about your holidays? We'll start with you, Jastin.
What did I love about it? Well, interestingly, this holiday I wasn't spending time with family this time. I actually went out of town to Dallas and got to work as a runner for an NFL game. I was part of the Fox Sports staff crew and got to work a Cowboys versus Giants game. So that was pretty fun. Got to do some fun stuff, had some fun tasks, got to interact on the field, got to be involved with some of the segments and help out with some of those. So it was fun. And seeing the game from the production side gave me a whole new appreciation for the football game and how they make all of that so seamless on TV. When you realize just how many moving parts are involved with it, it's pretty fascinating. So that was pretty fun. And they had awesome food to eat. So I had a good Thanksgiving meal or 2 or 3, and probably ate too many sweets because there were aplenty. But overall, had a lot of fun doing that, and I made some money. So hey, it's wasn't a bad deal for me this Thanksgiving.
What about you, Heather? How were your holidays?
I mean, I technically had 2. I went to a few different of my friends' Thanksgivings because none of my family is in Chicago. So technically my friends are my family. So I got to do 2 different ones. So that was nice. That meant double the yummy food. So yeah, that was the best part. That's what I loved about it. And I always do a tradition of watching the Friends Thanksgiving episodes, which I got to do. So I never hate that. It's like, it's the one thing that I would say is a tradition because I never make the same food. We never have the same whatever. So that's my one thing is I'll watch those every year as like I'm getting ready and hanging out throughout the day. So.
Yeah, I just did a lot of cooking. So that's always fun. Like, cook some sides for some people and my families and mains and desserts and appetizers and side dishes. I cooked every fucking meal fucking possible. Helped finish off meals like at my family's Thanksgiving. So, you know, I got to spend most of my Thanksgiving and holidays cooking. A whole fucking lot. So, fantastic.
Sounds like you loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not bad, but like I totally get it. Like in these shows when they're like, oh, I just spent like, 10 hours cooking all this and everybody's fucking done eating in 10. And you're just like, fuck all of you. I spent hours. And you guys just went, eh.
Right.
Or like
yeah.
I'll spend, I had to fucking cook a brisket. So I'm up at like 1 a.m. making sure the brisket's in the oven. It's going and all this shit, and like doing all this stuff. And then like, other people are just like, I bought this at the store. And you're like, thanks. Thanks a lot. Glad you put in so much effort. I appreciate it. So it's it's a weird time for me. Because it's like, oh, do all this work. So, yeah, I mean, not bad. I mean, the food was good at least. So that's always nice. When the food's at least good. But.
Yeah, I was thinking I saw something posted on social media about like, what's the movie that you watch for Thanksgiving? And I'm like, there's not too many just Thanksgiving specific movies other than, the horror film and Thanksgiving. But, but yeah, I'm just like, there's not really a lot of movies that are like set around Thanksgiving as much as it is like a Christmas thing or a Halloween thing. So yeah, I can't say I have a specific one.
I think that's because there's no real Thanksgiving season. Everybody loves to act like there is, because they're like, oh, it's Halloween and then it's Thanksgiving and then it's Christmas. And you have those people that are like, no, you can't do Christmas until December, whatever. Everybody loves to act like there's like a Thanksgiving season, but there's really not. Like, it's just a day, whereas Christmas is, let's be realistic. The entire month of December is dedicated to Christmas, bare minimum.
Yeah.
So it's
like holiday parties, shopping, all of the stuff.
So there's like a season for it, so that way, like doing a movie, based around Christmas, it doesn't even have to be Christmas Day. It can be the week before. It can be a couple of days before. It can be like, that it's just because you want Christmas shit in your movie, And plus, I think cinematically, Thanksgiving's kind of drab because look at the color scheme. It's just like yellow, orange, and brown. Who the fuck wants that to be the color scheme of their movie? It's kind of gross.
And thinking about it too, it does work better specifically for like television shows. You do one-off episode about like the crazy family gathering at Thanksgiving and have your chaos be about that for an episode. And that does play better. So I think that does make more sense.
Well, for me, it's like Thanksgiving is the holiday where I'm not at home as much. We're typically traveling during Thanksgiving. So usually we're going to Houston or we're going to somebody else's house who cooked or something like that. So you're around so many people and it's so busy. I never find that there is time to watch a movie on Thanksgiving. And then there are football games. So like, that's what I'm doing. Like that's feels
true.
like the Thanksgiving tradition to me is I'm going somewhere, I'm eating, and then I'm watching football the whole day. Or we're talking about football or, old people are either making fun of you or complimenting you depending on how you look or what you did or what they heard about you did, et cetera, et cetera. Thanksgiving, that's what it feels like I'm doing. I feel like I'm up and around or I'm watching football or something like that. Christmas is more of the home. We celebrate like that more at home. We're traveling less. We're just at the house chilling or eating something or and there's basketball. There's still sports involved with Christmas and everything, but that's where I feel like I'm watching movies more. I feel like I'm more at home during Christmas time than I am Thanksgiving. So that might play into why I'm probably watching movies more during Christmas. And also, like y'all said, there are just more Christmas movie themed options, when it comes to that. It feels very limited when it comes to Thanksgiving and movies and stuff. But, Christmas, man, there's kids' Christmas movies, there's animated movies, there's the old school stuff like the Christmas Vacations and stuff. Some people really get off on that stuff. And then you got newer Christmas stuff that's still coming out. And a lot of times there are movies like that come out during that time too, new ones that you can go see and stuff like that. So I don't know. Christmas just feels more movie friendly, I guess you could say. For me,
I get that. Because for me, like something I do almost every Christmas is I will go to the movies. It's like I like to go to the movies typically it's by myself and I'm just like, all right, this is what I'm doing. Like, you'll do the fun, like Christmas stuff, at least for me with my friends here. And then, all right, I'm going to a movie theater. Like, so yeah, I get it. That feels more Christmassy to me, but also, it's kind of like you were saying too. I feel like football and Thanksgiving are like synonymous. Like you don't really like Thanksgiving. You always are also going to think football. I feel like, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point too. Plus, I think also Christmas is a little bit more universal. Just for the sheer fact that like other countries have Christmas.
That's true.
A couple of other countries have Thanksgivings, not on ours. Canada has one. A couple other ones do too, but they're not like, oh, fourth Thursday in November. It's not that shit. So I think that's also why you'll get more movies that are Christmas themed. Is it's just a more universal concept, that plays better in
that.
Other countries,
Yeah, that's fair. I did not think about that part, but you're right.
Yeah. Plus, also, I'm just not very high on Thanksgiving. Like, I get the part about like being thankful and stuff like that. There are certain aspects of it I do like, and spending time with family and being off of work. So yeah, I'm grateful for that stuff. But some of the stuff surrounding Thanksgiving and
get rid of all the other bullshit.
Yeah, the Native American stuff bothers me.
Get rid of the pilgrims. Get rid of all that fake ass fucking bullshit story. Get rid of that. Why can't we just have a holiday that really is built around just being thankful for what the fuck you have in your life?
Yeah.
Just
so that's actually what I've made the holiday for me. I'm not like all on that pilgrims, Native Americans bullshit. It's just more of I have completely that shit loses me. I'm just more about just being grateful for the shit I have and the shit I can do and stuff like that.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that is one reason why I did dedicate so much fucking time to cooking and all that other stuff is to share that with like my family and stuff like that. As much as I don't necessarily love spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of cooking, I'm not doing that because like, oh, the pilgrims. I must spend hours cooking for the pilgrims.
Not doing that because of that Plymouth Rock. You're not sitting there thinking about Plymouth Rock.
Nah. No. I forgot Plymouth Rock was a thing until you said that, dude.
What? You forgot about Plymouth?
Yes.
Forgot about Big Plymouth.
You say Plymouth, I'm thinking of old fucking minivans. I'm not thinking of fucking Plymouth Rock.
Oh, man.
But yeah, like, I think, and I get that there are people that are like, oh, happy Thanksgiving. And they're like, oh, I don't celebrate that or whatever. I get it if you're talking about the bullshit, make-believe fucking story and all that other stuff. But like,
right.
I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, though, if we do have a holiday that is built around being thankful for things that you have in your life and all this other stuff. That is not the worst thing in the world. I think that, well, it is a little bit performative and all that other stuff. I think that, at least it's good to have a reminder to take a step and take a break and just go, yeah, I'm thankful for this or whatever, There are worse things in the world that people can be doing with their lives than spending a day being thankful for what they have, especially if you have stuff like, that's when it is obviously the most important to be thankful, Mm-hmm. So, yeah, when it comes to that, I don't think Thanksgiving is the worst holiday. I think the story behind Thanksgiving, it's pretty fucking terrible. It's all a fucking lie. It's all a bunch of bullshit. It's all colonialism bullshit. It's, all kinds of things. That's performative, and not wanting to celebrate that 100%. And that is why you'll never see me put up a Thanksgiving decoration in my life. But like I said, I will celebrate it with my family. I'll celebrate it with my friends because those are the things that I am thankful for and stuff like that, because that's what should be the important thing, you know? Oh,
Yes.
man. Is it time to get a little naughty? A little wicked, if you will?
Yes.
King
Yes.
of transitions.
Somebody listen to me.
Nobody knows anything but you.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Come on.
Cinema Slayers.
Hey, Cinefans, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. I'm Sterling, and as always, I'm joined by Heather and Jastin. And tonight we're going to talk about what we liked, didn't like, and everything in between with the newest movie by Universal Pictures, Wicked, Part 1. It's very important. Apparently not a lot of people, or not everyone knows, it is Part 1. So just remember that, Wicked, Part 1. We will go spoiler-free recommendations and scores, and then into a more spoiler-centric section with time codes in the description to allow you to jump around if you so require, in both audio and video formats. And with all that, we're going to go into our resident Oz expert, Jastin. What are your spoiler-free thoughts about this here Wicked Part 1?
Yeah, I am an expert on Oz, the HBO series. So I found this disappointing because this was not about prison.
This
I
was
don't
it a
understand
big
why it
shift?
wasn't.
Were you thinking like, all right, prison musical, this is what I signed up for?
Exactly.
Genius.
And I'm like, what is this? Like, what is all this pink? Like, what is going on here? We're not in prison. Like,
You're like,
what are we doing here? So,
where's J.K. Simmons at?
yeah. So it's getting a 10 out of, no, I'm kidding. But why isn't there a Oz musical? They need to do that shit like right away. Like
I have
yesterday.
seen an Evil Dead musical. I don't know if it's a musical or not. I know they're doing an Insidious play in the city of Chicago around Valentine's Day. But yeah, I agree, Justin. Why is there not a prison musical based around Oz?
Closest would be Chicago, but
Yeah, there is a prison scene or scenes. So
that's just the closest there is to it. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
but all the more reason it should happen because in Chicago, that is badass. So I know they could do some badass shit with Oz, but
I'm going to go on a limb and just say it's very touchy subject matter, and that's why.
yeah, probably so. Yeah, probably so.
Hey, but I'm down for it any day.
But I like to see somebody try. Well, anyway, back to this. So when it comes to Wicked, I mean, obviously I know about the Wizard of Oz, but when it comes to Wicked, I had heard about the play and the musical for years. And it was always something that I wanted to see and never got to see it. And that's just kind of one of the problems with living in West Texas is you don't get shit like this. You don't quite get the Broadway plays coming to town. So this was always just a distant thing for me. Some of the songs though were so popular and Wicked has been a very popular musical for a long time. So some of the songs I have heard, and I've heard covers of different songs. And I mean, I've heard several different covers of that Defying Gravity song. So I kind of knew what that was. And, but as far as the story of this, and I never read any books about this or anything like that. So the story is very foreign to me. But this was always something that was on my list. Like, oh, when I get the chance, I'm going to watch this. So it's unfortunate that I can't come in here after watching the movie and make comparisons to the play, because I think that would have just been infinitely more fun. So I can only speak on this as just somebody who kind of knew about the musical and the play, but but really this is my first experience with the story and the movie and everything like that. So from that perspective, I can at least say that I liked this. I think that it was good. I really thought that it was a good film. I do think, even though I think most of this is good, it isn't, I don't think it's a film without some flaws. It's long. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes. And for this to be a part one and it be 2 hours and 40 minutes, for as much as the movie, I feel, kind of drags in the middle, it made me question, did this need to be split into 2 parts?
Oh, dude.
I figured you'd have a similar, I figured you'd agree with me on that at least.
This movie, just for some context, this movie is as long as the play with intermission. The entire play with intermission is as long as this movie. It's absurd. Like,
yeah.
As much like when you were talking about like the middle dragging and stuff like that, I didn't feel that way originally. Because like when the middle's happening, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, so we should be ending up pretty soon. And then the third act of the film starts and I'm like, oh no. And then it's like an hour later that the movie ends. I'm like, oh no. Like the middle retroactively hit me hard. Like while it's happening, I'm like, okay, it's actually not that bad. We're like, you know, and then I look at my watch and it's like 2 hours and I'm like, what? And because I do know the music and I'll get more into that later, I'm like, oh no. We've got so much left just in this. And then it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like it's one of those things, like while it was happening, the middle didn't kill me until I realized where we were timing wise. And I'm like, that's when it hit me. And I was like, why the fuck was that so long? That's when I'm sitting there in the theater going, the middle was too fucking long.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I think the biggest problem I have with the middle is what it does to the end, because I feel like the end was too short and I felt like the middle was too long. And I feel like maybe if we had done some different things, we could have evened that out a little bit, because I didn't feel like I didn't feel like we spent enough time. Like we get in the end, we get to where we, without spoiling it too much, we get to where we are and things sort of escalate quickly. But I wish we could have spent more time there. Like, and I felt like we spent too much time the other place we were. You know, I'd already got the idea. The idea was across. I understood everything. I liked all the characters. I liked everything it was doing. But I felt like maybe 40 minutes in, the idea was everything was established. And then we just stay like for another seemingly hour. And
that's why you realize the play works without all the stuff they add extra to it, because it's actually a very well written story with that. It's a very fast paced fucking musical. You know, they don't sit around and drag these parts out. It just goes. You know,
okay,
and that's why it kind of works when you're doing this long, grand, you know, play that is, like I said, as long as part one. Because it is song, a little bit song. I'll break more down because I've done some math on this fucking shit to like really break down the differences in the feeling between the play and the movie.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, and see, that's why I wish I was someone who has seen the play, because then it would be easy for me to say, and maybe then some of why it was long would make more sense to me, or I would be like, okay, well, they're trying to develop this character more, or I think they felt like they needed to do this because in the play, this is missing, or there's not as much of this. You know, I wish I knew what the differences were, but regardless of that, I felt the length. So it's not perfect, but still what it is though is it's a very beautiful movie. It's very colorful. It's very lively. It's very energetic. So if you're going to be this long, at least you have energetic characters. You have a lot of color. The songs are very catchy. The choreography is good. It's very visually pleasing to the eye. So that helps. Even though it's long, I never felt disengaged. I felt the length once it was getting a little too long, but I never completely disengaged from the movie because I was compelled by the acting performances. And man, Cynthia Erivo is great in this movie. But make no mistake about it, like when this movie was over, I was looking for Ariana Grande's back workout because she has to have the biggest back in the world for carrying this 2-hour and 40-minute fucking movie. Because in my opinion, she fucking carried it, man. I think Ariana Grande killed this. Like, her performance as Glinda is like, to me, that was worth the price of the ticket alone. She was great in this, man. And like, if these two characters' dynamic is kind of what drives the play and what happens to them, I understand why this is so popular or why this is like such a good story and why so many people love it. Because that dynamic between Elphaba and Glinda is great. But I think for this film and this version and this, I don't know how much Ariana Grande added to this, but for me, she definitely added to my experience. I think that she absolutely carries this. And like, I feel like what sort of proves my point is like, sometimes you can do the spinoff test with these characters, and it's like, if there was a spinoff of this, like what character would thrive if there was a spinoff about them? And I feel like that character, Glinda, would definitely do that. Like, I think she's great. And I feel like Cynthia Erivo, Elphaba is best when she can play off of Glinda. That's what I feel. They're great together, but Glinda's great by herself. Glinda's great with the other characters. Glinda was great with everybody, you know. Adding her to a scene made the scene great. Her not in the scene, I don't think the scenes are as good without her. So I definitely felt that. I feel like Ariana Grande was my personal MVP in this. But other than that, and that's not to say everybody else wasn't good. And, you know, Jeff Goldblum is Jeff Goldblum as the Wizard of Oz. But who doesn't like Jeff Goldblum being Jeff Goldblum? He's just got his own charisma and way about doing things. So, of course, that's always good to see. So I'm excited to see more of him in the second part. And maybe part of the reason why I didn't feel like the end was long enough is because there's a lot of brilliant stuff at the end. I thought the ending of this with that Defy Gravity song, I thought all of that was amazing. Like, to me, that's a scene where I feel like, even though I haven't seen the play, that's the kind of scene where you can look at something like that and go, man, I'm pretty sure that it was epic in the play, but I'm sure that this is where movie magic maybe enhanced that, because that was just great. I thought that whole Defy Gravity escape scene was fantastic. And there are a lot of other good songs and fantastic performances in this that I'll get into without just being too long on this part. But overall, I did enjoy this. I think this is really good. I just think it had some balance issues and some issues with length that keep it from being perfect, but a very good musical and a very, very compelling, just very well done story. So definitely walking out of this, even though I hadn't seen the play, I can understand why people like this so much. It is very good overall.
Heather, what about you?
I will say I mostly agree with you, Jastin, as far as your feelings on the cast and everything, except I don't necessarily think that Ariana Grande was my MVP, because I just think everybody was casted so like nearly perfect that I think everybody was stellar in their roles. I get what you're saying though, like when you did the thing of like her not in the scenes, how was it? Like you just, when she's not in the scene, you miss her in this. I totally get that. But I was completely captivated by Cynthia Erivo's acting. I think she was a phenomenal actress in this. And, you know, I actually enjoyed her singing in her voice more than Ariana. Before anybody comes for me, I love Ariana Grande's voice. I think she's great. But she also wasn't doing Ariana Grande's voice in this movie on purpose. So I think to that, it's a credit to her because she was doing acting. She's acting in this movie. Even in her singing, she's acting and doing it, of course, more Broadway style. I think that she kind of had moments where she was technically, it seemed like she was channeling her inner Kristen Chenoweth, who I guess was the original person who did this. She, I think there were moments where she there were things she said where she sounded a little bit like her. You feel like she took a lot of cues from that performance probably, which is totally fine, especially in the funny moments. I think it works really well for her to do that. So I think she was great. I think she was excellent in this movie, but I don't know. I think it's also just because there's something about Cynthia Erivo, anytime she sings is like, she's got an insane voice. Her voice is absolutely insane. So I don't know, but I think their dynamic together really, really drives this movie, which I think it's supposed to. And, but honestly, Jonathan Bailey as Fiyero, he was super charming. He was excellent. He was like, I'm just sad we didn't get more of him in this movie because I think he was a great, great performance. He oozed charm and he just, I saw somebody on the internet that was like, he had sexual tension with everybody and I love it. And I was like, I kind of get what you're saying. Like even in his little song he was doing, you know, I just think that he did a great performance in that. Even Michelle Yeoh, like just anybody that you can name that it was in this movie did such a great job. And yeah, Jeff Goldblum was being Jeff Goldblum. He's the most eccentric, cool person ever. So I'm here for it. But yeah, I just think everybody in this cast was phenomenal. The dynamics of everybody in the cast together, I think was great. I also have not seen this play. I have not read this book or anything like that. I just know things I've heard about this outside of seeing it. And I did know the songs. I think a lot of the songs I was familiar with as well. And just the very basics of what the story is about. So I kind of went into it a little bit blind in a lot of ways, but I think it was really fun. I think it was a very fun musical. It was a fun time. I get what you guys are saying about like how it dragged at the end, because I feel like for the most part, it seemed well paced up until, probably that third act. It felt like that's when you notice it starting to drag a little bit. But for the most part, it really just had a lot of just fun, charming qualities to it. Really great sentimental moments, but also funny. And I think that it has a lot of things to offer. And it's also a musical. So I think that it does everything it's supposed to do. So I think for the most part, I would say this is a pretty solid film. I am curious to hear more about like how much was added to make this movie so long, if this is actually just how long the whole play is. Like, that's crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it, because I feel like, yes, it's more, obviously it's a more dialogue heavy musical, but I just feel like everything they talked about made sense. So I'm interested to hear more about that. But I also think that it looked great. Set pieces were awesome. Costumes were great. And yeah, I think it was a fun time.
I have not seen the play, but I know the play because I know the music. I bought the soundtrack to this movie probably close to 20 years ago. I'm very, very familiar with the music. I'm familiar. I read the book, Wicked, also like 18 years ago, very long time ago. This is very weird to me. Like I said, I did some math. So when you have the whole play sitting at about 2 hours and 30 minutes, let's take the intermission out. Intermission's about 15 minutes. Let's take it out. Play sits at about 2.5 hours. An hour and 10 minutes of that is music. So we're looking at what, close to 50% of the play is the songs. We're sitting at like 20 something percent of the movie is song. It's wildly different. The play, like I said, goes a lot quicker. Half of it is these songs. We saw what is up till the intermission of the play with this, which is the first, I think, 11 songs of the album, 10 or 11 songs in the musical. You've got about 8 more. It's 11. That's right. There's 11. It's the 11th song of the play is Defying Gravity. And then the final act, you get 8 more songs. Because this is would be so unbalanced if they did it that way. They're adding 2 new songs to the sequel, to the part 2. They're doing 2 new originals. Now, it is written by the people that wrote the music for the play. So hopefully it fits very well, But they have to do that to balance it out. But also, like I said, we're sitting at 20 something percent of the movie is music. That's a vast departure from the play. It plays a lot slower. One of my favorite songs from the album, I feel gets eviscerated in this fucking movie because of how much they add right into the fucking middle of it, which is Dancing Through Life. I love that song, and a lot of it's close to that in the play, it's there, and then they go to the Ozdas ballroom and all this other stuff. Even the thing with Bach and Nessa, like their whole little thing of, oh, you're only inviting me because I'm in the chair and all this stuff. That's all in the song. And I know that they add, that is the big dance number, just like in this. It's a huge, sprawling dance number. But what was with Elphaba doing a 9-minute interpretive dance to no music in the middle of that song? What the fuck was that? That is draining. You're in this brisk, upbeat, just like escapade of a number. And it just grinds to a halt with no music whatsoever. So you can have Elphaba do an interpretive dance to the sound of nothing to prove to people that she doesn't care what she thinks while caring what she thinks, but wanting them to think she doesn't care what they think. So you can have Glinda do it right after. I get that it's supposed to be the like, oh, Glinda's learning her lesson and all this other stuff, but fuck me, man. That scene takes so long with no music. It's a fucking musical. You've got no fucking music in the middle of a fucking music number. Who the fuck does that?
And see, that's interesting. And you put new perspective on that because I guess the way that I read that scene is that they had finished the song and then they just kind of reprised it again at the ball because so much had happened in between. That's just what my mind thought. But now that you say that, I'm like, oh no, maybe it was just they shoved so much other stuff in this before they actually finished the song. Because that's, to me, it just felt like they just reprised it because they were at a ball having fun. So they just reprised that song at the ball.
You are correct. That's ultimately what they do. But in the whole encompassing thing, that just becomes one number. You're not going to sit there and go, oh, that's the Dancing Through Life reprise.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
What they were trying to do is they're trying to do essentially that scene from Rent in when they do the first part of a song where everybody's doing the whole bohemian thing and Roger and Mimi step outside to take their fucking HIV medication and have their little mini number there to where they go back inside and finish the big musical number that was going on. You know, that's what they were trying to do. A version of that. That is a common thing in musicals where you'll have the big number start, then you'll have like the mini musical number start in it. That's like the side plot. But it's like the side plot. It's not the main fucking plot of the movie. That, you know, it's the side plot or a part of a plot. And then you go back in and you're finishing the big number. That is something that happens. But it's also all music. It's still musical number. It's not a, hey, we did all this. We're going to stop. We're going to take a music break. Because God forbid we have enough singing in our fucking musical to finish it. And like you said, Heather, I think that that's what their goal was. So it was like, oh, we'll do this and then we'll reprise it real quick at the end. They're not putting Dancing Through Life reprise in the soundtrack, though, are they? No. Because it makes no sense. You don't reprise a song right after you fucking do it. You reprise it later. That's what drives me nuts about this movie, though. Is that, yes, you add a bunch of stuff. You're adding more with Dillamond. You're adding more with this. You're adding more to their relationship. You're adding more to this. And it feels almost like a death by 1,000 cuts. Because you're only adding 30 seconds here, 30 seconds here, maybe 2 minutes here, 3 minutes here, 2 more minutes here, 9 minutes here. Ultimately, though, you end up with double the fucking runtime just because of all the little shit you add. And I just don't understand. Like, why is one of the biggest musicals of all time just, you know, structure's just not good enough for you? We got to go tweak it. We got to go add. We don't feel like there's enough depth. Which maybe that's true, Jastin, because while Glinda is a big character in the book, in the play, and in this, I do feel like there's more of it than it should be. Wicked is about Elphaba. And what the book is, I think when you were talking about the spinoff test, like what character would survive a spinoff, the book test really, like the book version of it destroys what you said. Because like Alpha becomes a revolutionary, like all these things, like it's a big sweeping arc, you know, like she is the adversarial figure to the government that is the Wizard of Oz. You know what I mean? She's a revolutionary. She's underground, essentially doing terrorist attacks and all kinds of stuff. Like it's a big sweeping arc and all this other stuff. And there's so many elements to it and all this other stuff. But I get why you said what you said about this movie. And it didn't click until you said that, though. Elphaba needs somebody to make her pop in this. Like, even when she's doing Defying Gravity, like, it's Defying Gravity and, the song she does about Fiero. Oh, it's fucking me up. Anyway, it's going to drive me nuts. I need to fucking look up that song. Hold on.
And I know what you're talking about, and it was a good song too. I'm like, man, what was it? What did she keep saying?
When they go save the wizard, or not, they save the lion from the whole cage, and she sings that song, and I'm getting it in my head. I keep wanting to say "No Good Deed," but no, that's a song in the second half. But it's kind of the same principle of a thing. I'm not that girl. Fuck me, that was
not that girl.
Drove me
yes,
nuts.
that's what she kept saying. Yeah,
yes.
That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
They to me focused a little bit too much on Fiero with that. Like, but her and that and Defying Gravity are like the two defining songs for her in this movie. In this movie, those are the two songs that really kind of show her be a character, like truly within herself, a character. Because like Defying Gravity saying, fuck all you guys, I'm doing this. And then I'm not that girl. Well, it's about Fiero. And like I said, there's a little too much Fiero, at least visually speaking. It is more her like walking around and like, you know, sad face and this and like all this stuff. Those are like the best examples of Alpha being a character. Outside of that, it's what is she doing with Glinda? What is she doing with Fiero? What is she doing with the Madame Morrible? What is she doing with her sister? What is she doing with Dr. Dillamon? Like, it's always that. It's what is she doing with this person? What is she doing with the wizard? And I hope they fix that for the second half. Because she's a little bit more by herself. She just fucking left everybody. You know what I mean? Like she's removing herself from these people. I hope they figure that out. Now, I will say this about Cynthia Erivo. I have a problem with musical movies. We've talked about it before. Sometimes when they mix the sound in these movies, it fucking wrecks me. Or when people do Broadway voice in these things, it fucking wrecks me. I'm like, I don't fucking understand a single word you're saying. No offense to Kristen Chenoweth. She's a once-in-a-lifetime talent. That shit she did dating back 20 fucking years ago when like I said, I bought the soundtrack. I don't fucking understand half the shit she fucking sings. It's that high warbly fucking tones. And I'm like, oh no. I can't enunciate a single fucking word out of this. To Ariana Grande's credit, she fucking did those. Still no clue what the fuck she's saying. That's some high warbly shit. No fucking clue.
Yeah, she was hitting them though. She was hitting those.
She was. She fucking hit those notes. And I'm like, oh man, Ariana, could you not have done a Chenoweth impression? I'd like to understand the words whilst they're being said.
Yeah, that's the only criticism I have of her performance, because everything else, like you said, she was hilarious. She was charming. She was just really, it was good acting too. It honestly was, not just good singing.
But Cynthia Erivo probably did one of the best jobs of doing Broadway singing but I understood every fucking word she sang. It was enunciated very clearly, just hurt the tone she used. Loved it. Loved it. Had no issues with anything she sang. Like I said, I know why I couldn't with Ariana. She was doing a Chenoweth. But Cynthia Erivo knocked it out of the park with that. Loved it. Loved all of that. I don't remember the fucking guy's name. Guy that played Fiero. He's great. Loved that. Like I said, my favorite song, especially in the first half, is Dancing Through Life. And I thought he's fantastic in that. You know, I dig the vibe of that song. I don't know why. It just really gets me. But what I loved the most about Ariana Grande's performance, because I'm going to reference this more to a play or whatever, I loved what she did in Popular. She did not Chenoweth that whole song. Thank God.
That was one of my favorite songs.
She made parts that hers. Yes. I am so happy she did. Because to me, that's my favorite thing about sometimes when you get not the original Broadway cast or you get different people doing it. Like, you got to make some of those parts yours. Especially the more iconic it is, the more you got to make it yours. Like that vocal run that Cynthia Erivo does at the end of Defying Gravity. She does it different than Idina Menzel. She does it different than Anna Gasteyer. She's done it different than all these other alphabas. Good. Because that's what you're supposed to do in that part. That part isn't meant to be the same by everybody, because that part is meant to show off your vocal talent. Show off you. And she does. Fantastic. And that's kind of what Popular is for Glinda. That's the song, you show off you. It's Glinda's song. Show off Glinda. And I loved what she changed. Like the little things here and there she changed. I mean, fantastic. Both of those songs, by the way, Defying Gravity and Popular, are burned into my brain forever. Not because of the soundtrack, but because of the movie theater in between movie, like fucking radio bullshit or whatever that was that they played when I worked at the movie theater. You know, the movie would end and it'd be the little slideshow shit. And it'd be like, oh, movie news or whatever. And it'd like do those things. And it played Popular in Defying Gravity for like 2 years fucking straight. Every movie theater I cleaned, every just standing in the fucking, you know, there to tear tickets, you would just hear that shit over and over again. Several times a day. Nonstop. So yeah, Popular and Defying Gravity are just burned into my brains. Because I think I had heard those songs like 1,000 times before I even knew what the fuck it was actually talking about. Like before I knew it was a musical, it was a play, it was based on this, it's this. Like I just kept hearing the songs over and over again. Jastin also probably has Seasons of Love from Rent burned into his brain.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
For the same reason. Because right before Rent came out, you'd be sitting there and you're doing all this shit. It's 525,000. Yeah.
Minutes. Yeah.
Over and over again. Nonstop. Yeah, it's, and like I said, then I went and read the book and then I was like, oh yeah, let me go, you know, then I wanted to hear the songs from the play. Like, you know, this was the mid 2000s. And at the time I lived in Lubbock, Texas. So it's like, you know, I'm not going to be sitting there like thinking about when I'm going to go see a Broadway play whilst I'm in Lubbock, Texas. But yeah, I weirdly enough, it just never ended up seeing it. I know the songs. I know the book. I know. I've even read a couple of the sequels to the Wicked book. There's some sequels. Read some of those. Yeah, a lot more to it. There's a lot of lore in the Wicked universe. A lot of lore. A lot of stuff. And you have to divorce yourself from some of that. I mean, this is not a spoiler. Elphaba and Nessa's dad in the play, in the movie, governor of Munchkinland. In the book, he is just a traveling priest or like a pastor, like type of thing. Like he is a follower of the Munchkin religion, and all this other stuff. So it's wildly different. It does give you wildly different dynamics with some of that stuff. But yeah, we'll get more into that later and some of the things that like like I said, there are things about the play I didn't know because I only knew the songs. There are things that are not in the songs that are a part of the play that I didn't know. And it threw me for a loop because I knew the book. So I knew the book parts of those, but I didn't know the play parts of those and that they changed some of those. One of them being that he's the governor. Didn't know that. But recommendations and scores?
Yep.
Recommendations and score.
What you got, Heather?
Yeah, I recommend it. I think it was fun. I mean, obviously, whether you have seen the play or read the book, it does color how you felt this movie differently, probably a little bit. But I just don't think that any of it, I mean, I can't speak for that, but like it feels like even if you have seen them, that you will still enjoy this, that there are things about this to enjoy, regardless of how familiar you are with this story. I think casting was great. Ariana and Cynthia were just, I think, the perfect choices for this. I love their dynamic in this. The music is great. Beautiful songs, beautiful scenery. Yeah, it's a fun time. It really is. I mean, you honestly just have to get past the runtime, or be okay with the runtime. But I think it was entertaining, and it was a fun time at the movie. And I just think it would be there's no reason to not like even recommend this. Like even people who aren't really into musicals, I know a few that still want to see it because they like Ariana Grande or because they've heard so many good things about this play anyway. So yeah, I think you should give it a shot. It's really good. Again, not perfect. It does have flaws like you guys were saying, but overall, I think it is, it's solid. And I would honestly watch it again. And I think watching it in the theater is a great experience. Also, I understand that like maybe not everybody knew this was only a part 1, but as soon as you go into the movie and you see the title card and it says part 1, like I don't understand people still being confused because I heard people like in my theater, like after the movie ended, somebody on the other side of me was like, I knew it was going to be a part 1. And I'm like, yeah, it tells you like pretty much in the title card. And then I heard about like some other people who were walking out were like, is there going to be another one? I'm like, I just don't understand the confusion. But anyway, I just thought that was kind of amusing for people to still be questioning that when it tells you in the title card. But yeah, overall, I really liked it. I am going to give it an 85 floating poppies in the classroom. Poppies, right? Out of 100.
See, but the only thing I would argue is that maybe when it says part 1, they're thinking that, it gives me title cards throughout the movie, like the chapter 1, chapter 2. You know how movies do that sometimes.
True.
They'll break the movie up into parts. Maybe they thought it meant that. But also they're stupid because it's Wicked Part 1.
And it didn't do that in any other part of the movie. But I do get what you're saying. That's a fair, my bad, everybody. That's a fair assumption.
Anyway, Jastin, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a recommend too. Like it's not bad really in any way. I mean, we all said a lot of the same things, regardless of the different opinions, it's well acted. It's very colorful. The music is good. The choreography and the visuals are all great. So it's a very, very well made movie. All I'm saying is that it's not perfect because it's a little too long. And I think because, and like I said, in my opinion, it's the middle. And especially when you get towards like the end of the middle, when we're transitioning into the third act. So that middle is a bit bloated, I would say. I think that's maybe the best word I could use for it. But overall, once we get past the bloat though, and we get to the third act where we're visiting Emerald City and everything, I thought all of that was thrilling and it was fun. And I liked everything I was seeing, and things get a little more serious and a little more like volatile to me. And I think that's maybe why I wanted to spend more time there. So I felt the length of the middle because I felt like we spent too much time there. But at the end, it gets really awesome and thrilling and everything. And I was like, man, dude, but when it was over, I walked out going, man, dude, I can't wait to see part 2, to see what happens to everyone. And I think overall, that's the feeling that they want to leave you with. So it's not perfect. We could have done a couple of things different, but overall, I do think it's very good. It's a very, very good film with with a lot of great performances and one show-stealing performance, in my opinion. And then the rest, but all of it really adds up to something worth seeing. And I agree with Heather too. It was fun watching this in the movie theater, getting the surround sound and that enhancing the music and what you're seeing was a very fun time overall. So with all of that, we'll go 80 dramatically swaying your hair to the gasp of an elated crowd of friends and followers out of 100.
I wanted to like this. I wanted to love it. But I ultimately am very conflicted by this movie. It's good. There's a lot to like about this movie. There's a lot I do like about this movie. But there's like another 2.5 to 3 hours worth of movie we've got left coming. Holy fuck, guys. This is going to be like a 5 to 6 hour movie total. When you're like Wicked, the movie is 5 to 6 hours long. When the play is a crisp 2:30. Fuck my life. What is this? As much as I hate to do this, this movie gets a lot of points off for just fucking being so goddamn long. Needlessly long. If I'm going to knock John Wick 4 for being long, my ass has to knock this movie for it being half the fucking story and still too goddamn long. $72. Books being stepped on by Fierro, much to the dismay of Book Talk when they saw that scene. Out of 100. Cinescores at dead even 79. Spoilers?
Yep.
Spoilers.
One of the scenes that took so long that really kind of killed me too was when Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth come back. Their little homage in the One Short Day song when they're like in the Emerald City and they come just to tell the story of the Grimoire and all this other stuff. And it's like, I mean, I get that scene was in there to, I don't know, fluff up the boners of all the theater kids watching that scene. You know, like, oh, look, it's the original Elphaba and the original Glinda. Whoa. But fuck, that was a lot too. Like that dance scene in Dancing Through Life. I'm like, that's a solid 20 minutes of my life I'm never getting back, guys. You could take that out. And we'd be like down to 220. And I'm like, still thinking too long, but way better. But I've really been thinking about the end of this movie. And one thing really, really bothers me about it. And I think it goes into what Jastin was talking about with it being rushed. And it just makes no sense to me because, like, all right, so setting the scene, the wizard, you've got Madam whatever, and you've got Elphaba and you've got Glinda, and they're all sitting there in the wizard's palace. And they're like, look, you got to read the Grimoire. You got to do this. And like, hey, do a Grimoire real quick. And she does a Grimoire and she tortures every fucking, one of the monkey guard. And then they're like, oh, great. Now we can just fuck up all the animals right now. And they say that right after she did all that, knowing full and fucking well that she's like, animal rights. I don't want to do any of that stuff. The villains, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, legitimately go right away, hey, now we can just fuck up all the animals. Why the fuck would you fuck your plan that quickly? Like, wouldn't the big villain plan be like, okay, cool, make her grow some poppies, make her do some of this, make her do some of that, like get all this other stuff. And then you kind of sneak in, hey, and fuck all the animals. But no, they go right away with, they're not even mincing words. They're not even doing it in code or anything. They just go, man, look at all that magic. You want to fuck some animals? Yeah, let's fuck the animals. Cool. Hey, Elphaba, we want to use you in our plan to fuck over all the animals. Right?
Yeah.
6 minutes before that, when the wizard's like, hey, what do you want to do? And she's like, I want to help all the animals. And then 6 minutes later, the wizard's like, you want to like fuck all their lives up? That's what you said, right? Like, what the fuck was that? As far as like turns go. You can spend 8 minutes doing a fucking dance, but you can't even have them, like I said, talking code. Do something. You just have them go, now we the bad guys. Quickly. And just fuck it all up right away. Like it felt dumb. Like, and I get the whole point is like whether or not the wizard is this, or is the wizard this, is the wizard that, was this story a lie? What's a lie? What's the truth? What's this? What's that? 100%. I totally get that. But like that made your villains look like idiots.
Yeah, because it also just would have been better to do the slow manipulation or the thing of like, let me make you think it's your idea to do this because you say you want to help the animals. So this is how you have to help them, or something like that would have played a lot better, especially because Elphaba's not stupid, and she's very smart and she's very strong about what she believes. So yeah, I actually agree. I think that was like, that's something they could have pulled that idea off a lot better, I think.
Yeah. And I agree too. And that's why I said, this is the part where we should have spent some more time. We should have spent some more time in Emerald City. There should have been relationships with Oz and all of that developed and stuff like that. And there could have been some manipulation and then slowly figuring out, there's something that's not meets the eye here. which perfectly plays into Oz and who Oz is and making people think, I'm this big mechanical face, but I'm really not. Like, it felt like what that needed to be was they arrived to Emerald City. Everything, and I figured that first song was an homage. And when I saw Chenoweth and them, I was like, oh, okay, they're doing an homage song and everything like that. But after that, I think we should have spent more time there. And maybe, your Elphaba and Glinda could have had some adventures and met Oz, and he could have had her doing stuff with her magic and making it seem like, oh, look at all these great things you're going to do. And you could have done some manipulation stuff, but then Elphaba starts to find out, wait, something's not right. And you tell that story and they try to lie to her, but then ultimately she's finding out she knows a little too much, or she's finding out too much. And then maybe they have to admit to her, okay, this is what's really going on. Like, I feel like there would have been, you needed to spend more time there to develop those things, because it's like you said, Sterling, it needed to happen quickly so that we could get to the middle part of this and end it on that high note with Defying Gravity, which that Defying Gravity song and scene was spec-fucking-tacular. I just wish what followed it, or I just wish before that, was the development to justify how incredible that was, because it's one of the best sequences in the film.
Oh yeah,
I believe
when she's all up on the fucking broom and flying around and singing that song, it's fucking epic. It's amazing. It's 100%.
It's fucking phenomenal.
It's a sight to behold. It is.
Yeah, but it happened, but it just, things escalated too quickly when we got to Emerald City. So when you start looking at this movie and going, well, why did that have to escalate so quickly? That's because the middle is fucking bloated.
Well, on top
That's
of that,
where we needed to cut some shit and add some shit to Emerald City.
I get that they probably played that dialogue like that and they did the scene structure like that, probably because that is probably exactly how it happens in the play. Oh, we're the bad guys. That's like an hour in, though. You're like an hour in and that's happening. So, like I said, it's a lot more fast paced. If you're looking at it from a play structure and all this stuff, sure, it makes sense that it's so quick. But you've added so much bullshit to this movie. And you're telling me you don't want to add something then? You're adding all this other bullshit. You can't add something then? You're telling me you can't scrap half the fucking montages? This movie has so many fucking montages. But you're telling me you can't scrap one of the 8 other montages to montage them not spending one afternoon with Oz before he reveals his plan? Can't montage some spell work, doing some puppies, doing some vines, doing this, doing that, and then have her go, hey, we need to put some wings on these guardmen. And then you could still have that be the defining thing, and that be the turn that she's like, what are we doing? I just heard all these fucking guys. And he's like, yeah, because that's what we're doing here. You know what I mean? You could have had that, but you could have had the montage of a Rocky level fucking montage of learning the magic and reading the Grimoire, and it's all dun, 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 and all this other stuff. And Elphaba's reading the Grimoire and running up some stairs and shit. You can't do that fucking montage then? Sacrifice one of the 8 montages of her just staring at shit from this fucking movie. You can't put one there? Because they did all that shit in the movie to fix the fucking time, like to flesh out the scenes, to try to flesh out relationships and do all this other stuff. You can't flesh that out though? You sacrifice that on the altar of keeping it like the play? You didn't sacrifice any other goddamn thing to the altar of keeping it accurate to the play the rest of the fucking movie. But you want to sacrifice the turn of every fucking character in the story on the altar of play accuracy. Why? You've already got me for 245. You've already extended everything. Can't add fucking, if you can't sacrifice nothing else. Okay, then give me a 6-minute montage then. something. But no, that's what they chose to die on. That hill. Think about how much more impactful an already amazing Defying Gravity would have been if you had just added a little more depth to it right before it. But no. That's when they wanted to make time cuts. I feel like they filmed it because it feels like they filmed everything under the goddamn sun.
Maybe they cut it trying to get under 3 hours.
At that point, fuck it, go to 3.
Yeah, just go to 3. That's what I was about to say. Just go to 3 and have that more time there.
There is a point of no return in movies, which is about 2 hours and 45 minutes long. At that point, who fucking cares how long you go? You've already just, I'm gonna feel it regardless. At no point have I gone, man, this movie was 3 hours long. If it was only a crisp 2 hours and 48, I would have been fine. I'm not going to die from that 12 minutes at that point. You know what I mean? In my head, you've already lost those points for being too long. Fucking take advantage of it. Then go for it. Like, this thing has been in the works forever. For so long have they been talking about making Wicked the musical movie. Weirdly enough, we could actually get another Wicked movie too. Not even talking about this. A different company owns the rights to the book. We could actually get a Wicked the book movie also. But yeah, at that point, why not? Who cares? Because like you said, Jastin, it retroactively really makes you go, fuck the middle of this movie. Yeah. I mean, for the most part, though, I mean, outside of that, there were some people that were talking about the look of this movie. And more particularly that while it is very colorful and all this other stuff, it's not very bright. And I really just wanted to bring up what the director said about that. And I really kind of like that. You know, you have the Wizard of Oz movie. Yes, all the color, it pops, it's bright, it's all, you know, in your face with the color. And yeah, and that was because they wanted to make use of Technicolor. I mean, this is the first movie using fucking Technicolor. They're making everything as colorful as possible. And while this movie had a lot of that look to it too, with the colors and stuff, it was a little bit dulled down. It was a little bit more matte. And the reason being is because he wanted Oz, the land of Oz, to feel lived in. You know, you've got, you know, you might have a bright pink fucking house, but it's lived in. There's fucking dirt out. It's going to be a little duller. It's not going to be bright all the time. You know, even with the Emerald City. Yeah, it's all green and it's this and that and all this other stuff. It's fantastic, but it's not shiny green the whole time. It's a fucking city. A fucking city is going to be dirty. It's going to be lived in. It's going to be a little duller. And so he used that to dull some of it down. And I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I like that aspect of the attention to detail. Until you just blowed out this whole fucking movie. Where was that attention to detail? John Chu. Isn't that the director of this?
John M. Chu, yeah. Which I like some of his other movies a lot, so, you know.
He did Step Up 2.
He did Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah. He's done some good movies. Also did Step Up 3D.
In the Heights, he did.
Yeah, he did do In the Heights. Anyway, Heather, what are some spoilery thoughts you had?
Excuse me. So I would say you like the dance sequence part that you're referring to. Like you, I think, are 100% correct that it was a very long and drawn out sequence. But to that, I will say I actually liked that scene because I liked the sentiment of it. And I also liked that I think it did a good job of showing that very first turn that you see in Glinda of, oh, like I need to be acting different than I was acting with her, and, you know, realizing what she had done and how she had, you know, potentially ruined something for Elphaba. Like it just was her, it was her aha moment of, you know what, I don't want to be like that anymore. And I like how well they transitioned her in that part. But it was a very, like, I think it was very sentimental, and I like the way it was acted because, I mean, you could just see it in Elphaba's face, like how much that meant to her for Glinda to be doing that. The one person she never would have expected to have that done with. Like she just was taken aback by it, and you could just tell it meant so much to her. And I think that they did that really well. And I think that's where you see the change in their relationship. And when you start to be like, okay, they're going to be best friends, it's going to be great. And then from that scene on is when you see, you know, montage of friendship or whatever you want to call it, or you see the like fun parts of their relationship, which was, it really was fun. Like when you get into, especially, I think it's the scene right after that is when they start to do the popular scene, right? And that really, I agree, was a phenomenal scene. That was one of the best parts of the movie for me as well. The song was great. Just their back and forth with each other. I think Ariana Grande was very funny in that scene when she's like, oh, I told you such a good secret. And then like trying to like guilt her into telling her something better and pretending to be like really upset. She was so funny in that part. It was really, really good. So I don't know. I think that obviously the shining light of the movie is the Elphaba Glinda relationship and their dynamic. And I mean, you really have to, you could tell the two of them have great chemistry off screen. And I mean, I've seen it just because of all the interviews they show of them. And I feel like you have to have that kind of a great chemistry to make these characters work the way that they did in this movie. I mean, maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, it could be just really good acting, which is also a thing. But you just feel like there's something more than just the acting in it with them. Like you feel like they just have this real kinship towards each other. And I really liked that. And I like the progression of that. And honestly, I like Glinda's character development in this movie. Even when you do see her kind of like when they're in the land of Oz and you see that she's kind of like, no, don't go against what they want. You got to do what they say. And still caring so much about what other people think. You still see that there's a change even with that, because she's like, yeah, I'm not the person that wants to go against it, but I appreciate that you are. And I want to let you be yourself. And I hope you're happy being who you want to be in that situation. Like you still see that growth and development. At least that's what I got from the scene in the movie. And I really just, I love how they give her such a great progression and growth in this movie. And that is something I think was my favorite part about Glinda, was just seeing how much she changed just in this first movie. And also, like, to both of your points, talking about Elphaba, like needing to play off of somebody else for her to really shine. I didn't actually think about that either, but that does make sense, you know, and I don't know if that's supposed to be because of the character being so reserved and so used to closing herself off because like nobody ever wants to talk to her or get to know her. You know what I mean? And like, so that's why it's, you know, that's why those scenes are better with other people, because it's people that are having conversations with her and wanting to talk to her. But yeah, that is a good point. I think that's fair. And yeah, I think that the thing I loved about Elphaba, or I guess Cynthia Erivo's performance of Elphaba, was just, there was some kind of really, I guess, like a profoundness to her that in everything she says, you feel like it's coming through. You feel like anything she talks about, she's lived this life. She has lived a life that was hard, and it colors everything she says. It colors everything that she talks about and how she talks about it. And I think they do a very good job of that with Elphaba in this movie as well. I mean, you said that the first act in the play ends with the Defying Gravity song, right?
Yeah, that's where they end for intermission.
Okay. See, I almost want to say, like, should they have ended it right before they go to Oz? This first movie? Like, because I'm just thinking about how they sectioned out this movie. I'm trying to think of where the best cutoff would have been to make this a little shorter, or to go into the second movie with part of this there, you know?
You have to end with the fallout with the wizard and Glinda and all them. You have to have that fallout.
Yeah,
break.
okay.
You just have to cut out any of the other shit. That's how you cut the runtime down a little bit. Cut out all the other shit.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, and you're right. They didn't need 6 minutes of the awkward dancing. They didn't need that. You could have done 3 minutes of that and you get the point. And I also liked the storyline that they were doing about the animals and what was happening to the animals. I thought that was interesting. I'm not sure I specifically liked how they like sectioned it out in the movie, because they don't really go into it too much until technically Oz, when you find out like a little bit more about what the plan is with the animals. But it feels like that maybe in the book or the play, maybe that's a little bit more of an important story than we get here. At least in the first part of the movie. Like you feel like it's it almost feels like it doesn't fit in with anything else going on in the movie for at least the first few times they talk about it. And then it slowly starts to feel a little bit more like it fits in. But I think I don't really necessarily know how they could have done that better. But that was just something that felt a little bit like I'm not 100% sure on how they sectioned out that specific storyline in this movie. That being said, I really found it to be an interesting story because, again, my frame of reference is Wizard of Oz and, you know, talking animals there, flying monkeys there. Like when you get a backstory of what's happening and these really smart creatures losing themselves and everything, it's really interesting. And you see why Elphaba has such a connection with, what was the professor's name?
Dillamond. Dr. Dillamond.
Yeah, you see why she has such a connection with him. And I did actually like that relationship in this movie too. And yeah, I just wonder if there could have been a better way to incorporate that story into the mix with everything else in this movie. Because yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed it. I just don't know if it flowed, I guess, the best that it could have. Maybe that's just me, but and I also think Defying Gravity was the best song, or at least that's popular and Defying Gravity are, again, I knew both of those songs before this movie and they were ingrained in my head as well. And I was very excited when I knew they were going to come. But Defying Gravity was, I mean, especially with the way that Cynthia Erivo sings it, it's so powerful and like emotionally charged. And I'm sure it's like that in the other performances too, but I just love how she sang it and how she did it. Like there's something you mentioned it earlier, Sterling. There's something about just the tone of how she sings stuff that I'm just like, this is so good. Like it just resonates. It just hits the right spot. Like she's just got such a cool tone to her voice that it's telling a story with even just how the tone of her voice is. It's just really, really great. But it's, I don't know. I think that now hearing that there's not that many more songs left that we're going to have in the second half of this, that kind of bums me out. Cause I'm like, well, where do you go from here? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they flow into the next movie. And I mean, there's so many people talking now about how this is the best movie of the year, or this is the movie of 2024. I mean, it's a good movie on a lot of levels. I don't think that I would call it the movie of 2024. I mean, I guess in the sense of culturally speaking, probably. As far as, is it the best of 2024? Definitely not, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that I was really, really worried in this movie too, that I was going to not like Glinda at all. I had heard like, oh yeah, she's great. She's such a great character. But they did go for quite a while with being like, she's terrible. She's a terrible person. What is she doing? And then I think that's why I liked that scene so much, because you get that turn from her of, okay, this is not all right. So, but yeah, I think she really is just a very intriguing character. And she was so quick in any moments where she was supposed to be funny. Like she had a very quick wit or very really good timing on her jokes and stuff like that. Like even the part when she doesn't get into Madame Morrible, when she doesn't get into her class or the thing she was doing, she's like, oh no, I didn't get my way. This is crazy. Like whatever she said, that was a really good moment. Like I really thought that was great. And just how much she cared what people thought was, because they really are so opposite, but not, as far as Glinda cares a lot about what people think, but she tries to act like she doesn't. She tries to act cool and collected. Elphaba absolutely cares what people think as well, but she pretends that she doesn't care at all. Glinda doesn't pretend like she doesn't care. She just tries to pretend like, oh, like everybody would like me, so I would never have to worry about someone not liking me. Whereas Elphaba is just like, everybody hates me, so I'm just going to hate everybody, and gives off that facade with it. They're kind of two sides of the same coin. And I do love how that comes into play in their relationship in a lot of different moments in the movie. And I guess I also expected a little bit more from Elphaba and her sister Nessa. I think that relationship could have been fleshed out a little bit more, but also with the runtime of this, where do you put that? They probably could have done something like it feels like it lacked just a tiny bit more where you care about it. You know, like I wanted to care about it a little bit more than I did in this movie. Maybe that'll come into play in the next one though. And again, I just want to say that I think that Jonathan Bailey as Fiero was great. His song and dance number, it really was. I mean, as far as visually how it looked, it is up there, like right behind the Defying Gravity song moment. I just think everything was so grand and big and fun and exciting in that song. I loved that scene. But yeah, I'm going to assume that he just plays maybe a little bit of a bigger role in the second movie as well, because he's obviously the main love interest, and there's sort of this like he's kind of into both of them, but more into Elphaba, but he's already committed to Glenda. It just feels like there's a little love triangle situation there a little bit. And I don't know. I feel like because of that, I just kind of expected he would be in this movie a little bit more than he was. But every minute he was on the screen was glorious. He was so great. So yeah, I think, I mean, I guess maybe this wasn't a shock to anybody else, but to me, Madame Morrible, that was a twist. I didn't see that she was going to be in on it. And yeah, maybe I should have read into that more, but I was just like, oh no, she's bad too. But I think that I would have to agree also that when they're in Oz and everything is just running so fast through, yeah, it does feel like they're trying to crunch so much in that you don't get the exposition you probably need on some of that. Like also with the whole, her accidentally causing pain to the monkey that she gave wings to, you know, she was clearly trying to help, right? And that's the thing that kind of bugged me is he's standing there while she's doing this and she's like, oh, I want to help him. And then she's like, oh no, it's hurting. I want to take it back. But then it's almost like, why would they tell him to go after her? Like, why would he be mad at her and tell all of the other monkeys with wings to go after her when clearly he knows she didn't do that intentionally? Like, why wouldn't he tell them to go after the wizard, you know, or tell them that like, no, this is the wizard's fault. It's not Elphaba's fault. That was something I didn't quite get because he saw what was happening there. Like, why would he be blaming Elphaba for this? You know what I mean? But other than that, like, it was just the fact that when it came to like the book that she was reading out of, like with the spells and everything like that, it felt like they really wanted that to be a very like wow moment with like, oh, the book and she can read it and all this stuff, which is completely fine. But because again, we don't get like, kind of like you said, a day with the wizard, like, oh yeah, this is a very special book and hopefully one day you'll be able to read it, you know, like just anything leading up to that being a moment where they're like, oh wow, you can read this and this book opened for you. It's like that happens. She does a spell. Everybody turns against her in a span of 5 minutes, you know, and they needed to kind of spread that out a lot more, in my opinion. So all that to say, I agree with you guys. I think that section was really lacking what it needed to be for this movie to be a little bit more full and well-rounded. But yeah.
Jastin, what about you?
All right. Yeah. So I just think that, you know, for the most part, when you're getting introduced to these characters and everything, Elphaba, I do like the character a lot. And I like this story a lot about her being born green and the problems of just being different that caused her. So I really kind of like this story of this person kind of coming into their own, and you could tell that there was a lot of insecurity about who she was and everything like that. And that extra tidbit you find out about her sister and how she sees her relationship with her sister and like I like how that was played. And I mean, I guess it's the same way in the play, but either way, I really like the story of that and how you felt that there was this obligation to help the sister, take care of the sister, and the father made that clear, but it was also just in Erivo's performance of this character. So you felt like Elphaba really had this obligation and really felt that part of the reason why she was there was to look after her sister and everything. And when you find out more about why that is and everything that happened with the dad, and as a result of the way she was born, so the dad was feeding all of this stuff to the mother to try to prevent another birth like that. And then unfortunately, it wound up with her being handicapped. That was some heavy stuff, man. And it kind of was another, when they added that layer to it, I was like, damn, man. So it kind of helped you see even more why that character was the way she was and why she felt the way that she did, and the constant kind of and how she looked at herself and, you know, these things are my fault. And really they weren't. It took somebody else on the outside looking in to explain that, no, that isn't your fault. But still, I liked all of that it was doing to the character, and you seeing the traumas that she had to deal with and what she had to overcome. So it really makes what happens at the end of this meaningful when she finally does become more confident in herself and what she's doing, and the understanding of, like, doing these things isn't going to validate, you know, doing these things for people, meeting Oz, this, that, and the other is not ultimately what validates you. It's about understanding yourself and what you need and what you want. So all of those things are very powerful messages. And I thought that telling her story was a very powerful story. But on the flip side of that, like you were kind of saying, Heather, I think Glenda's story is a powerful one too, of this person who starts this one way, and then this friendship, this relationship, you can see the effect she's having, that Elphaba is having on Glenda, and vice versa. So I like this relationship of these two people that are opposites, but you could also see how them being roommates and this journey that they go on, how that's affecting the both of them. So all of that's good. Like, just the general story of these two people and the story of Glenda and Elphaba's growth and their relationships to this school, and then eventually what happens in Oz, all of that is good stuff. And the singing and everything else is just great too. That popular song, y'all have already talked about it, but yeah, I just loved everything about that. And like Ariana Grande's performance in this, why I feel like it's a show stealing performance is because it just felt like everything she did to me was entertaining. The way she fell on a bed as Glinda was entertaining. The way that she would react to people and all the hums and and the way she would turn and twist her head or throw her hair around, and she had this entourage of people that were reacting to her. Or one time she was like, I need you to carry me over here, and I can't even walk. Just carry me. And they're like carrying her over to where she wanted to go. Like, every single time she was on screen, every time she was saying something, reacting to something, or doing something, she was just so entertaining to me. I got the most laughs from her. I got the most entertainment value out of her. Like, so I think she was so pivotal to this movie because everybody she was with, it was just entertaining to see how she was reacting to them. Or even when Jonathan Bailey, whenever Fiyero shows up, that flirting back and forth that they were doing, and how she was acting like she didn't care but did care, and like, you know, all of the back and forth that she was doing with him, that was great too. And like, I just feel like every scene she was in, she just absolutely was killing it as this character. I just felt like she just enhanced every scene she was in, and she just was so interesting. And I feel like up until Arrivo or Elphaba has that powerful moment at the end, I really felt like there were parts and there are scenes where it just felt like it was Glinda's movie until I found out more about Elphaba and found out more about her story and her journey and everything like that. And I think some of that is by design. I don't think it was meant. I don't think that I get that Elphaba is the main character. I get that this is her journey. I'm not saying that it should be Glinda's movie or it was, but I just think that was a very powerful performance. And there are parts where it was, to me, superseding everything else that was happening because she was just so entertaining to me. And I think she commanded the screen presence and she was just commanding so much attention. And Ariana Grande is a good singer, so I think the popular song was very catchy. She was also killing it in that department too. She was hitting the high notes. So I think she was showing a range of talent just all over this performance. And I think that's why it stands out so much to me. And because she's in so much of it, and because she's in so much of the middle, even though it's long, I was with it because a lot of it is she's in it. And a lot of that part of it is her story and her interactions with Elphaba and her change of a person and how Elphaba influences her to change. I think that part of it is important, and I wouldn't cut any of that because I do feel it was important. And like you were talking about, Heather, with the scene with her doing the interpretive dance and everything like that, like me, I'm not very musically inclined like that. Like I wasn't sitting there watching that scene going, man, this is ruining the flow of this song, or the song already stopped there. I'm just not that kind of a music person. I'm kind of very simple when it comes to music. I listen to it, and if I like it, I like it. If I'm not, I'm not. I would never be able to have a podcast where I'm critiquing music or talking about the change in tempo or the hook isn't as good, or, I'm just not very musically declined like that. If I hear it, I listen to it. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. And I may not even be able to explain that well why,
That's why you hate St. Anger so much.
Shut up. Stop it. Just stop it. So I'm way better at explaining and critiquing movies. I'll tell you that. I'm much better at this. I'm much better at breaking down a story and the parts of it. But so that song going away and coming back didn't really affect me. I was more just focused on what the characters were doing. And I do think that was a great moment for both of those characters, for Glinda and seeing the change in her, and then Arrivo showing that even though this was supposed to be an embarrassing moment for me, her turning that around kind of showed some of the strength that she had. So I really just love what that did for both of the characters. And also for Glinda, there's this whole thing about her wanting to be a wizard and wanting to learn how to do magic. And she showed some persistence too, to still want to do that and not giving up on that and everything like that. So yeah, there's kind of a bit of an underdogish kind of story there too, because Elphaba's the prodigy and she's doing the magic and everything, but Glinda wants to do that too. So both of those characters are super compelling.
I did love the part where Glinda's trying to turn her dress into a ball gown. It wasn't working.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah. Another just funny part. I mean, there are just so many of my favorite parts of this movie just involved her. So I guess that's why I can't just turn off the thing of, I just really think she was so important to this movie. But whenever we are talking about the animal conspiracy with Dillamond and all of that, I liked all of that too. I thought it was intriguing. I did want to know where that was going. And that's why another reason why I feel like we should have spent more time in Emerald City and slowly uncovering that. I just think would have been so much better for this movie because they set all that up and you're like, ooh, where's this going? And it's got this aura of mystery to it. And I feel like we could have milked that a little bit longer when we got to Emerald City. That's even another reason why the Emerald City part and it going so quickly is problematic, because it just would have helped so much of those developments that you had set up for those things earlier. So yeah, so I do feel like that's just like one of the decisions I think that they should have thought about more. Or like we're saying, if you didn't feel like you could cut anything out, go ahead and make it a 3-hour movie and just have more of that. Just extend it, add 20 more minutes and give us that part, because then I think it makes everything about this feel more balanced there at the end. But I did like a lot of the developments at the end. As far as just what happened. I mean, we already talked enough about how Defying Gravity was epic, but when you look at the end of this movie and you see where Glinda is and where she's positioned, you've got Oz and this opposition over here, and then you've got Elphaba who's flown away and is now going to do her own thing and is empowered to be her own person. So I will say that when it's over, that sort of feeds my excitement to see what happens in part 2. Because I know Glinda eventually can do magic because of the way the film opened. So I'm excited to see how that happens, where that journey goes and how that comes about. I can't wait to see what Elphaba does with her independence and wanting to fight against what Oz is doing. And then they've sort of turned her into this villain. So I can't wait to see how all of that turns out. So overall, I think it's all very, very compelling stuff. And the cliffhanger where it ended felt like the right place. The only thing is just I just think it could have been a little bit more smooth getting there. But I like where everything is. I like where we stopped. I've liked where everyone is positioned to go into part 2. And so it makes me excited to see what we may get. I think the developments are going to be fun. And, you know, I'm not going to read ahead or try to get spoiled on it or anything like that. I really want to like not know and just go in blind so I can kind of talk about this whole movie that way. I think it'd be weird now to like see the play before this comes out. And then my perspective of part 2 might be completely different if I see the play or read the book or something like that. So I'm going to try to stay in this mode so that I grade it all the same. But either way, very excited about what's to come. And I think at the end of the day, even though it didn't get there perfectly, that's what this movie is supposed to do. You know, it's everything that it's set up. You're supposed to be interested in these characters. You're supposed to like these characters, and the narrative's supposed to get you to care about them and want to see what happens in the rest of this story. And this definitely did that. And based on how well it did at the box office, a lot of people liked it. A lot of people went to see it. I don't know if it's made the most money this year or anything like that, but I'm sure it's up there. I'm sure it's probably one of the higher grossing films. So that's great for this movie. And is it the best movie of 2024? I mean, I don't know if I would go that far and say that, but I mean, it's not like we've had a lot of excellence in 2024. I mean, there's been a lot of movies that have been middle of the road, or they're good but not great, or they're, you know, but I don't think I've seen anything that is just what I would say is necessarily like far superior to this. So it probably is one of the top movies of 2024. Like when I look at the field, like I don't think there's too much that just towers over this. So
not that Gladiator 2?
Oh God.
When you look at 2024 so far, Wicked is 5th box office wise.
Okay.
It is behind Inside Out 2, Deadpool and Wolverine,
Okay.
Despicable Me 4, and Beetlejuice.
Okay.
The number 2 threw me. Okay.
It's
So
gonna take Beetlejuice probably by this weekend. It's only like 11 million behind it. It's gonna take it.
Where is it domestic and worldwide?
So that was
Right now,
domestic. So domestic, or that's its ranking domestic wise, I should say. Domestically, it's made 286 million.
Okay.
97 internationally. So 382 for
Okay.
for everything. I don't really think it's really been out in a lot of places though. It's not the type of thing they meant for it to bank here.
Okay.
All international
that
money's just extra.
Got it.
So
Got it. But still, that's a good, that's respectable. Top 5 for the year. So not bad. And out of all the movies we've seen and what I've seen this year, that might be about where it is. It might be one of the top 5 movies of the year. It could be. You know, I'm not sitting there thinking about it all, but like, you know, but this is probably one of the better ones. I mean, I really like this. I really liked Wild the Robot. That one was up there for me. You know, like I just think here in 2024, like, yeah, it can make a case. You know, it can make a case. It's one of the best. It might just be. It was trendy. It made a lot of money. It's got some good performances. So you know what? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But yeah, I think that's all I got for it, man. Like overall, I enjoyed it and I'm excited to see the next one. And who knows, maybe the second part might be more balanced than this part was. Maybe I like it better. Now, I don't know. You saying they added a bunch of shit. So I don't know. Maybe we'll get the same issue, but
2 songs.
if the adding has to do with more Glinda, I'm down.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't said what songs or whatever. They just said they're adding 2 songs. So
Okay.
that's what they're
Okay.
adding.
So
Yeah. So box office wise, budget for this was roughly 150 million. I don't know if they're talking about for both or just the one, because they did film Wicked and Wicked Part 2 like back to back, like all in one shoot. You know, Part 2 comes out literally next like November. It's already shot. It's filmed. It's being delayed just to have a year between movies.
okay.
So it's, you know, it's not like we're going to wait some indefinite amount of time until like Part 2 comes out. No, it's filmed. It's coming out next year, unless, I don't know, something crazy happens. But I mean, it's, even if the 150 million means just part 1, which I don't know how you would differentiate the two. Like you did one big shoot. It's made its money back though, theoretically speaking already. So they're happy. They got to be happy.
Yeah, for sure. And it's got very positive reviews on both the critic side and the fan side. You know, it's got, I mean, it pretty much is doing what one of the better movies of a year does. You know, it's got the popularity, it's making the money, it's got some recommendable things about it. So, I mean, maybe it is. I'm not ready to say it's the best. I'm not going to jump on that train to Emerald City, but I will say it might be one of them. You know, it might be. You can make a case. I don't mind it. So yeah, I'm done.
Just because I went down a little weird rabbit hole, the Smile 2 has made so much money. I didn't realize that.
I'm happy to hear that.
Its budget
where
was
is
like,
it at? Where is it? Where is it?
I mean, it's relative. It's all relative, of course. But its budget was $28 million, and it's made $138 million, which I know that sounds kind of low, but that's like 4 times its budget, almost 5 times its budget. So
it only cost $28 million.
Nice.
Yeah, $28 million.
Damn.
And it, like I said, $138 million doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it is when your movie only costs fucking 28.
Yeah.
That's gangbusters.
That makes me happy, though. It was a good movie.
Yeah. I like Smile too.
Yeah. I mean, one of the more important things to Hollywood isn't technically the in total of how much money you make. I mean, it kind of is. You know, if you're making like $3 billion or whatever, like fucking Avengers and Avatar, sure, they love that. But it really, it's always in relation to how much you cost to make. They don't care if you only make $100 million. If it costs only 10, they'll keep making them forever as long as they keep making 100 million. They don't give a shit. That's 90 million in profit. They don't give a fuck. That's 10. You know what I mean? It's shit like that. That's what they care about. How much more money did you earn than you cost to make? So yeah, you spend 300 mil on a movie. They might expect you to make $1 billion. But 38 million on a $28 million movie. Oh, they fucking love that shit. So yeah, it's all relative like that. And it's just because I was looking at the, box office of this and the budget of this. And it's like, oh, Smile 2 made 392% of its budget back when it left theaters. I was like, that's a really crazy statistic. But
yeah.
You guys got any more thoughts about this here? Wicked?
Not that I can say right now.
No, sir.
My second favorite song in the musical is in the next part. I mean, I could say it. It's not really a surprise or anything. It's March of the Witch Hunters. Love that song.
Okay.
So, we'll see. We'll see. But, on that note, thank you guys for listening to this here episode of the CinemaSlayers podcast. Check us out on the internet at www.cinemaslayers.com. We're at CinemaSlayers podcast on Facebook. We're cinema_slayers on Instagram, on Threads, on Letterboxd. We're cinemaslayerspod.bluesky.social or whatever the fuck that whole thing is. God, get a better naming convention, please. We're CinemaSlayers Pod on TikTok and YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating review. Really appreciate it. Really help us out. Shout out to Plug Migo and Mundo Cho for our theme song and logos respectively. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your friends' family, tell your family's friends. And most of all, tell those dear sweet mothers, because dear sweet mothers love.
I think I have to say Jeff Goldblum on this one. Mothers really do love Jeff Goldblum.
That's fair. That's fair.
And Glinda. We'll say Glinda too. She
and
was the
Elphaba.
MVP.
Come on.
And Elphaba.
Don't negate Elphaba. It's her fucking movie.
I love Elphaba. I'm just saying.
Kinda, I guess.
It's supposed to be her movie.
He's negating Elphaba.
Jastin, quit being all anti-green over there. Look at you. You were sitting there and you're wearing blue and yellow, the colors that make green, but you couldn't wear that green. Come on, Jastin. Why you gotta be anti-green like that?
I back the green. I like Ninja Turtles.
See, look, I'm even drinking Sprite.
Huh.
All about the green.
Pro green over
you.
here.
Look at you. I don't know what that meant at all.
I can't believe Jastin's like, oh, I'm going to be so anti-green. I'll wear what makes green, but won't wear green. I see how it is. We here at the Cinema Slayers podcast are pro slut, pro Sydney, and pro naked. You. Yes, you Cinefans, you are enough. Justice for Chris. Justice for Todd. Justice for all those amazing stunt people out there. And justice for all those amazing animators out there. All these people don't get enough love. So we say justice for them. And as I was in this podcast, the YouTube videos, and the TikToks, just remember, according to Jastin, Moon Knight is the best picture winner. Apparently, I got to be worried about my cat fucking clawing down a door at the end of this episode. He's just going to fucking town on it right now. Here's a little polish.
Cinema Slayers.
Little fucking asshole. Has to wait always till the end. Just, it's almost over, dude. Come on. Anyway. Oh no, we done? We just done?
I guess
I think
we
so.
are.
Wait, what movie was talking about Burger King being great? What are you talking about, Jastin? What am I forgetting? What movie said that?
Heretic.
Was it a Heretic?
Fuck
Yeah.
that movie. Okay, yeah, never mind. Okay.
What?
I remember now. Fuck all that.
What? I thought you loved it when she said that.
When she said that?
Yes, just that.
Jastin, what about our illustrious history would make you think I'd ever love it when she said that?
I'd like to remember that you went, I loved it when she said it.
I'd like for you to actually go eat at Burger King.
And that's coming from someone who doesn't like Burger King.
Those feelings were real. I mean, just understand.
Yeah.
But I left that boy there.
Jastin,
Okay,
keyword were.
Child Jastin is having a great time sitting at that Burger King, though, for a while.
I mean, do we need to call like figurative child protective services that there's just a kid Jastin sitting at a Burger King unsupervised?
Alarm them all. Yes.
And child, the other two with the poultry logs, or what are they called?
It's the poultry logs.
That might be accurate.
Okay.
Poultry logs. Yes. Appetizing.
Oh man, it is. It's too late to do this. I can't do it.
Yes, it is.
Can't do it.
It sure is.
All right, guys, we're out.